Douglas Hofstadter, a friend of mine for 20 years, loves to give presentations to audiences. Just simply stand up there and say, two of these pieces are by a machine program, two are by Bach, and I'm going to play all four of them in random order, and I'm going to take a vote on which ones you think are Bach's and which ones you think are the machine. And when I'm through with that vote, we're going to talk about it. And the results will depend upon the experience of the audience. I mean, if they're highly experienced, let's say there's only 15 Bach conventions for the piano, for example. If you've got a bunch of musicologists who've heard all 15, it's pretty easy to expect them to get 100% correct. Vice versa, if this were a group of youngsters who don't know anything about classical music, they would get a very, very low score. And then hopefully what you really want to get is people who are familiar with Bach's style, but not so familiar that they recognize individual pieces, and then have to, differentiate between the style that's imitating versus the style which is the original. So we call it the game. The game. I'm sorry, even as I said the test, I knew that was wrong. The game. And this game business goes back to my childhood when my parents used to play the game with my sister and I, and that is putting on an old 78 album and starting in the middle someplace and see who could guess what the piece was, who the composer was. And the big winner was somebody who hadn't heard the piece before, but could guess the composer and the name of the piece based on their knowledge of the composer's output and what they hadn't heard. This had to be that. And so Doug liked to go literally around the world and present these games. I stopped playing the game because audiences were usually very mad at me after a few runs of the game, and so I decided I didn't want audiences to be mad even before I started talking about my work. I wait till after I talk about my work, so I stopped playing the game. But Doug still does it occasionally in his presentations.